Got to watch your nuts when you have squirrels in your pants. I can tell you that. Welcome to Sacrilicious with Robin and Snerts, a Simpsons review podcast. I'm your lovable nerd Snerts, aka Joshua Stearns, and joining me is the equally delightful Robin. Don't have a cow, coward!
Hey-o! What's happening, Josh?
Well, we are both getting over illness, so that's fun. It's nice to be able to not feel like complete shit to do this recording, and I'm very grateful to have today off for what? What do we have today off for?
So today is that we're recording is one of my very favorite holiday in the U.S. and it is Juneteenth, and it signifies when Texas recognized abolition and freed the slaves in Texas in 1865.
Yeah, it took them a minute to get the message out to all those poor slaves, but eventually they did, and that's what this holiday represents.
Is the beginning of that process. And I think of the impact that African Americans have had on me in my life and how grateful I am for that. And we love, Christmas and Thanksgiving for family, but I think this is the most important thing perhaps America has done in its history.
Yeah, I think it's good that it's a new federal holiday, and I'm not saying that just because I get a paid day off. That is also a nice perk, but it is recognition of past sins. And
how many people knew what this was before 5 years ago?
Yeah, that's the thing. Much like the Tulsa massacre, some of this stuff just kind of flies under the radar, and if it's not like promoted and explained, and to a certain extent taken advantage of by marketers, right? Not only are we going to get all the Pride swag, we're going to get some Juneteenth swag as well, which I have mixed feelings.
At least it gives
sometimes the message is out there, but it's delivered in
mind
less than ideal capitalist way. But anyway,
but the nature of it, let's raise a toast to this wonderful holiday and the people that we have in our lives because of that.
Yes, excellent. And if this is your first episode of Sacrilicious, let me tell you how it works. I pick an episode of The Simpsons. Guess what? Robin picks an episode of The Simpsons, and then we talk. It's that simple. So now, without further ado, let's jump into our first Simpsons episode, and we're mixing it up, folks. Mix up, mix up. I am going to go first this time.
What you got first, Josh?
I don't think you ever saw that coming, did you? Wait, you should have, because we talked about it. Anyway, here's the episode I picked. And I am very excited, folks, because this is the premiere of Sideshow Bob on Sacrilicious with Robin and Snerts. Sideshow Bob is one of the best side characters out there, period. Hands down. Albert Brooks may be like in the top 5 guest spot, but Kelsey Grammer might be in the top number 1 seed.
100%. Kelsey Grammer is amazing as this character.
So fantastic.
One of the things they said on the commentary was really important, I thought, was that they consider him part of the cast, not like a guest star.
And that when he comes to table reads, he's so much natural fitting in, which is why they say he is a part of the cast. It's not just because
and he makes the script better was one of the other things that they said.
Yeah. And he also, in an interview, I don't have the exact verbiage, but he used to do like odd jobs around the house for this gentleman back in the day when he was a younger person. And he based the voice of Sideshow Bob off of this person. So he's in there like cleaning bathrooms or doing yard work or something like that. And he hears somebody, it's like, "Oh, Kelsey, you'll never forget the blah, 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 blah." And he's like, and he kind of banked it around in the back of his head. And he's like, "I'm going to use this voice for later." And it just was such a natural fit for Sideshow Bob.
It's such a caricature.
Obviously, to get the ball rolling, we got to start with season 1, episode 12, Krusty Gets Busted, which is an original air date of 4/29/1990, all the way back in the year 1990. Wow, so long ago. This was directed by Brad Bird and written by Jay Kogan and Wallace. All right, here I go. Wolodarski.
Wolodarski.
Now, are you familiar with the work of Brad Bird, Robin?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge Miyazaki fan. of Hayao Miyazaki's movie Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, and he was integral at Pixar, where he was the head of the. He was a director there,
Correct.
and
Do you know some of the
he
Pixar
and
movies that
John
he
Lasseter helped bring Hayao Miyazaki. He did The Incredibles.
100%?
What else? I'm sure The Incredibles
Ratatouille.
too. Okay.
And he also did The Iron Giant, which isn't Pixar, but also a
That's right.
beloved,
The Iron
beloved
Giant,
movie.
Josh, is maybe my favorite movie of all time. I don't, as I told you, I don't have favorites. I have an echelon.
Yeah,
It's at the top of that echelon.
there you go. Awesome. Yeah, it's a well-loved movie. I've seen it once. I need to watch it again. It's been so long that I kind of like I only have fuzzy memories of it. And he finally, the last note here for Brad Bird as a director is Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, which is one of my favorite Mission Impossibles.
Oh yeah.
Brad has just an amazing career, and he does excellent
Oh
work.
yeah.
It's very rare where you see just hit after hit after hit coming from one person, but Brad fills it. Uh, Nicely. And then Jake Hogan is a great follow on Twitter. I recommend anybody who's interested giving him a follow because he does Philosophy Fridays, where people ask various questions, and he's a philosophy major and all that kind of fun stuff. So he'll engage with people. He's engaged with little old Snerts. So,
Nice.
he's even here to talk to us peons. And not just the upper echelons of celebrity, which he does do on his own podcast called Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, which I only recently started listening to, and they had Weird Al Yankovic on there.
Oh, one of my
And Jay
idols.
asked one of my favorite questions out there: would you rather be Batman or a Jedi? To Weird Al, and the great Weird Al replied, "I would like to be a Jedi so I can drink blue milk." And Jay said something along the lines of spirituality and being a Jedi, boring, blah 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 philosophy stuff. Nothing about blue milk, but still very entertaining. So once you're done listening to Sacrilicious, I definitely recommend giving "Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan" a shot. So, because this is the first season, there is no DVD commentary. They didn't really pick that up until season 3, I believe.
Okay, I was wondering about that. And do you know how long they went through? Because there's a lot of these. This DVD set came out in like 2000, early 2000s sometime.
That's something we should look up. I could do it right now, but I don't want to screw up my notes.
No,
But like when
future
we
episode.
should look up when the DVDs came out because I was in college. Because like I said before, like I remember playing World of Warcraft and having the DVDs on loop as I was playing the game because it's a MMO and there's a lot of downtime and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, like when you're listening to the commentary and you've seen this episode a billion times over, like you don't really need the visuals as much as the audio, obviously.
Can picture the whole thing
Um, and I don't. I
if
want to
you're high
say
enough.
I want to say like season 3 or 4 is when they started doing it for every single episode because it was kind of sporadic at
Yeah.
first, but then it became a selling point for the DVDs. People were like, no, like I really want to, hear what these people have to bring to the table. And when they start getting the guest stars and everybody else coming in, it's kind of cool. But like I said, because it's the first season, we are not going to get a DVD commentary for this, which means maybe I will shut my mouth sooner than later. Who knows? Stick around to find out, kids. So this is not the first appearance of Sideshow Bob, but it is the first appearance of him as a major character. His first appearance showed up in the Tall Tale Head, and he had an afro. Do you remember this at all?
Vaguely, it was still the same color hair.
Yep.
But it was one big,
big old
I
afro.
do.
And so then they edited him down and they gave him the classic palm tree hairstyle that everybody loves. And do you know who originally was slated to voice Bob?
Who's that?
James Earl Jones.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
I could see it too, but I don't know if James would be coming back every season.
Would be a
like
different
Kelsey,
character,
right? Like
yeah.
I don't think he would be quote unquote a member of the cast, right? Like I don't see that happening.
I mean, maybe, but yeah, I agree. He's too classy.
We also get a first appearance of our favorite local newsman, Kent Brockman.
Yeah.
So, if you would do me the honors, kind sir, can you play us our first clip of the old TV promo that was
Here
for Krusty Gets Busted?
All right, listen up, listeners.
Springfield's favorite funny man, a criminal?
Hand over all your money in a paper bag.
Homer holds a missing clue.
Which one is the robber?
If only he can find it.
Well, if the crime is making me laugh, they're all guilty.
Send in the clown,
Say it ain't so, Krusty.
My client has no comment.
because Krusty's on trial.
I plead guilty, Your Honor. Oh, I'm not guilty.
The Simpsons.
I love finding those old promos.
That's really well done.
I don't know
feel
why
like
I
the
like them so much.
writers wrote the promos.
It could be, and I think that guy's voice is just such nostalgia drip. You know,
Oh,
I hear it
100%.
like it's like a warm blanket, you know, and I'm just like, I feel like a
It
kid
almost
again.
felt like a parody because it's so reminiscent. Yeah.
Right. And folks at home, we were trying something new. A little peek behind the curtain. Usually, when we've been doing sound clips, I go in post production and add said sound clips. But now we are trying to be proactive and get all the clips ready to go, so we don't have weird comments of like, well, maybe we'll find a clip, maybe we won't. And now I realize I have a new challenge: not to laugh during the clip because I gave a little.
We're just gonna laugh through them all.
Yeah.
People are like, I didn't hear it.
So the episode opens up with Krusty the Clown Show, and we get some fun chanting here. With basically like, who do you love? We love Krusty. And then there's a really dark suicide joke. What did you think of the suicide joke?
I mean, I thought it was amazing. So he goes, you know, who do you love? And all the kids go, Krusty. And he goes, how much do you love me? And everybody goes, with all our hearts. He goes, what would you do if I went off the air? And all the kids go, we kill ourselves.
Yeah.
That is so dark, you know.
Yeah.
It's holding up to a mirror up to society, and that was just not done at the time, especially not in a cartoon. Like, that was edgy, and I love it. That's some dark ass humor right there.
And I think we have the Krusty opener as our clip number one after the promo.
Hey, kids, who do you love? How much do you love me?
With all our hearts,
What would you do if I went off the
we kill ourselves.
So it's very clear from the start that Sideshow Bob is abused. He doesn't even get the dignity of speech. Everything's for a slide whistle. And they shoot him out of a cannon. And apparently they do this all the time because the, Krusty's like, well, maybe the problem is we didn't use enough gunpowder. And then, he gets shot out of a cannon because they're celebrating a little girl's birthday. So that's kind of adding to like both the
It's
psycho
very
nature
violent,
of it.
clearly,
Correct.
for Sideshow Bob, and Krusty even like apologizes to him. He's like, sorry, but it's this little girl wants for her birthday, so
Yeah.
we're gonna turn you into a human bullet.
And then, of course, like we get the catchphrase that's repeated all throughout this episode, where it's like, "Don't blame me, I didn't do it." Let's see if the cannon clip works out. Clip number 2.
All right, here we go.
One.
The cannon! The cannon! The cannon! The cannon! The cannon!
Sorry, Sideshow Bob. Don't blame me. I didn't do it.
So that's awesome, and that just kind of gives you an
It's a
idea.
good lesson for the kids, Josh. Deny.
Well, and also we have later on Bart gets onto the Krusty show by saying, "I didn't do it." So this is a phrase that comes and goes throughout the history of The Simpsons.
That's a fantastic episode.
Yeah, it is. And we're treated to an Itchy and Scratchy short called Burning Love. A little bit of behind the scenes knowledge here. Anytime they have an Itchy and Scratchy, dollars to donuts is because the episode was running short and they needed to pad it to the acceptable length runtime for the distribution. So whenever I see a Itchy and Scratchy cartoon, I love it because it's over the top violence. It's very Looney Tunes-esque. And there's a great line with Marge basically saying like, I don't get all this violence, and Lisa makes a crack. Well, if cartoons were for adults, then they put them in prime time.
This was the first primetime cartoon ever, and this is their second year that they did it on the Tracy Ullman show the year before, but
Correct.
This is the first year of The Simpsons.
Yeah, and there was a lot of controversy where people were like, well, this doesn't really seem like it's for kids.
Right.
When I believe it is for all ages, but there's definitely
100%.
jokes that are more geared to adults than there are for children.
Don't be a pearl clutcher.
Correct. So Marge gives Homer a call, and he's immediately suspect because he's like being asked to buy premium ice cream.
Ooh,
And
premium.
the whole reason for this is because Patty and Selma are coming over with a slideshow. Robin, were you ever the victim of someone showing a boring ass vacation slideshow?
You know what? I don't think I ever was. And we watched some slideshows in school, I think, but
Sure.
I don't think I ever got that. I don't. My parents wouldn't have sat for it. Like
Yeah.
none of us had time for that stuff. We're like, we'll look at a couple and then we're good. Okay, let's have a cocktail.
I remember going through like old stuff in my parents' place, just trying to clear out some of the old clutter, and I found an old slide reel that Grandpa had,
Oh,
and I was like,
really?
"Oh, how come I don't remember, us ever looking at slides?" And both my parents were like, "Because we love you." So
Thank God for our parents, Josh, that we didn't
now
have to go through this.
I did have the aptly named Dr. Bland when I went to CSUN for geography. And his whole idea of teaching geography was showing slideshows of him and his wife and bitching about the Bush administration. So I've been submitted to torture. And here's the worst part. I paid for that
Wow.
torture to get a piece of paper that says I'm kind of smart. So
Yeah.
fuck slideshows.
That sounds terrible. I love
Yeah.
how Marge goes, they come over with all the like stacks of slides. And Marge goes, ooh, 8 carousels. We're in for a real treat.
And I love how Bart and Lisa are like eyeing each other suspiciously. And Homer, Bart, and Lisa are like, fuck this. This is awful. We know this isn't going to be good. And then Marge is trying to, like wants to spend time with their sisters and like trying to be positive about it. Right.
She's so sweet. I love
yeah.
Marge.
So, only Marge seems interested in this lovely slideshow. So Homer has to go to the Quickie Mart to pick up the ice cream. And we're going to try to set up something here where there are 3 main clues for this mystery, and we all going to see a little bit of them here. So we see a Krusty the Clown character who, oddly enough, is wearing a bandit's mask. Did you notice that? Like he's
I
literally
did.
wearing like.
It's one of those tiny eye masks, that just covers the eyes.
Yeah, like he's like a henchman
he's
for
not
the
fooling
Joker in
anybody.
like the 66 Adam West Batman, something like weird like that.
A henchman.
So we see Krusty the Clown heating up a microwave burrito, which is he's reading a magazine.
Jinkies.
And the music hints that something fiendish is afoot.
Jinkies.
So I love the line with the poo.
Jinkies.
Yeah, I love the line Jinkies too. Very good. Thank you for the sound pulls, man. You're doing excellent on that. Hopefully you can keep that going.
I get overly excited with that last one.
Nice. And I love how like Apu mentions like you look very sad for someone who's buying this much ice cream.
He's got piles of ice cream.
And he's Homer is like one of his best customers, so like he knows like the guy's coming in for ice cream.
He's
like,
coming in a
usually
lot
it's
for ice cream.
I also love how Homer needs to get like a snack for the walk back to the register.
Back to the cash register. That's amazing.
And he also has a nickname for his sister-in-laws. Do you remember the nickname?
The Gruesome Twosome, which is
Fabulous.
Appropriate if you've watched the show.
Fabulous name. And then we get our final clue. Homer turns and accidentally steps on the foot of Krusty the Clown.
Jinkies.
He sees a gun, screams, and jumps into a selection of chips. Now, Robin, if you were in Homer's shoes, what would you do? Would you jump into the chips? Would you run out the door?
Oh, yeah. I'd fucking... If there was an exit near me, I would bolt, of course.
Yeah, I would be the same way. I am not a fighter. I'm a laugher. And I would be like, let me go run outside and call 911 after I'm safe.
I mean, you're not helping the first guy by being a second body for somebody to shoot at. You're not going to tackle a guy that's dumb.
Right.
So you get out of there and get yourself out of danger and then get help there as quick as you can.
But oddly enough, we know Homer is an excellent tackler because he hit James Bunt very well.
He took down James Bunt, the greatest spy of all time.
He didn't have a gun, so maybe there's a gun factor.
This is true.
Apu has a great line as he's being robbed by a Krusty, and he goes, yes, I know the procedure for armed robbery. I do work in a convenience store, which I love.
Another statement about America,
Yeah. Oh my God, he's getting robbed all the time. And then Homer provides a police sketch, and it's Krusty the Clown with the robber mask
It's
on.
I love how it's randomly the police artist is like this effete Frenchman. He goes, "Well, it is just a simple charcoal drawing, but I hope it will do."
Yeah, and then we have a very drawn out scene of Krusty making a drink and just kind of relaxing in the evening, right? And SWAT just comes through. I mean,
Huge operation.
oh my god,
Busts in.
yeah, and this is like before they had all that like military hardware being sent to police departments, because of the Middle East wars. This is like 1990, right? And they're going in full SWAT, and then Chief doing his classic Wiggum stupidity. Talks about the Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. Blah 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 blah.
Which immediately would have the case negated. Of course, if you don't read somebody their Miranda rights.
And so
he's not the greatest of policemen, I don't think.
Yeah, it's very obvious in both these episodes that we picked today that he is not the sharpest tack in the drawer.
Oh, we love them so much, though.
We do. And then so Homer has to pick up the clowns out of a lineup, and he's laughing uncontrollably. And he's like, "Well, if the crime is making me laugh, they're all guilty." And of course, Wiggum is very annoyed at this because he just wants to like, "Come on, man, pick him up. I want to go home. I'm tired of this."
He just keeps getting more and more like, chuffed by all these clowns that are hilarious and laughing.
Yeah, and so he picks Krusty out of the lineup, and then we cut back to home with the gruesome twosome finishing up their Mexico trip slides. And everybody looks just as bored as we thought.
Freddy says, "This concludes our Mexican Odyssey."
Yeah. And it's like the mailbox or being full, and then like them dropping the reel off to be developed, which is pretty funny.
It's at the end, the last one she shows, and this is us getting it developed. I like Marge's line. She goes, "Very thorough."
Yep. And then Homer busts in with excitement because he caught the crook, afterwards. Only to realize that this might impact Bart negatively because it is his hero. I love how we get this repeat, very subtle audio joke where every time Krusty is walking, his shoes squeak. It gives a little flop and a squeak, which I love because it doesn't stick around for the entire series, but it is very much a clue for this particular mystery.
Jinkies.
You gotta warn me next time, Josh. Jeez.
I was not anticipating.
You did emphasize clue, I guess.
That was an ad lib. It's not even in my notes. Homer gets outed for the gruesome twosome with Patty and Selva, and they're like, "So the truth comes out."
Well, because they're watching the newscast,
yeah,
and it's showing the arrest and everything like that.
Correct. And so obviously Bart is crestfallen, but Homer is like, basically goes to Marge, he's guilty, Gillty, which is another fun Homer can't spell joke.
It's one of the classic Homer, I am so smart, SMRT.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the interviews on Conan's old talk show when he's interviewing Dan Castellaneta, like he looks like he's getting stupider when he says the voice. Like his face makes him seem less intelligent when he does a Homer voice. It's quite the thing to see. So we have a lovely animated shot with all the depressing blues because Bart is, like I said, so sad that his hero has done something terrible, and he's pulling the string of his Krusty doll. I love how it says, "Buy my cereal twice," which is very funny. And eventually it says, "I didn't do it," and it's just a very well done, well animated scene.
And because Bart goes, "Oh, I wish I could believe you." He's like, you've seen the evidence at this point.
And everything's on there. The writing, the visual, the audio, all on
point. But his heart tells him,
Josh.
His heart tells him it's not his hero.
So we get a aptly named Kent Brockman special report called "Krusty Gets Busted."
It's an expose style.
It's always fun when they say the name of the movie or the show in the movie or show. And my favorite, so we show like a history of Krusty, and I'm not going to go into every little one.
Real quick, the name of it is Krusty Gets Busted, the day the laughter died. Oh, and there's a magazine cover that says rhymes with dastard.
Yeah. And there's also another one that's called the Clown Stopper, and it shows a poo with a 38.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm not going to go into all the history of the special report, but the one that cracked me up the most is when he's selling pork products. One, he's Jewish, so bad Jewish person not following the faith there.
Krusty brand pork
Yeah,
products. They get the
right.
Krusty brand seal of approval.
Yeah, more like pork of approval. Heyo.
Sing it.
And so my favorite bit is he literally has a heart attack while doing a commercial on air, and he's like, "I'm dying, I'm dying,"
And everybody's like,
cheering and
"Yay!"
laughing, and like the anime. This is old school Simpsons, so the face animation is all over the place and very sporadic. A lot of fun. And so during the special, also they show the three main clues again: the microwave, reading, and feet.
Jinkies.
And Reverend Lovejoy during the special encourages everybody to bring all the Krusty merch they can to a giant bonfire that we'll get into later.
The angry mob is forming. Yep. Everybody's so upset by what Krusty has done, betraying their trust.
And so we see the kids and everybody went out to the courtroom to see Krusty get arrested. And he's out of makeup. He doesn't have his signature costume on. And Bart points out his tiny feet, which is a giant clue, isn't it?
Jinkies.
Krusty gives his signature line. He tells Bart, "I didn't do it." And everybody starts laughing.
Everybody laughs. He goes, I didn't do this. And everybody's like, ha, ha, ha.
And as we heard in the promo clip, he's a terrible... what is he? He's not the witness. God damn it. Why is my mind blanking?
A defendant.
He's a terrible defendant. I don't know why I wrote witness in my notes. That dumb. Anyway, and he, it's like, do you plead guilty or non-guilty? He's like, guilty, Your Honor. Oh, sorry. Opening jitters.
Opening day jitters.
Yeah, which is just like this poor lawyer. Has a terrible
he
client.
hired the wrong lawyer.
Yeah, 100%. So once again, folks laugh and Homer acting like a coward because they show the footage of him diving into the chips. And
they're asking him to point him out
Correct.
in court, and Bart is pleading with them, like, don't do this, Dad. Don't put my hero away.
Yeah, and of course he eventually points him out in the courtroom. And now we're back at home, and Marge and Homer are cleaning out the kids' bedrooms.
Of all the Krusty toys.
Correct.
And all the Krusty products.
And I love how there's a vendor selling Krusty products to burn. That's always good entrepreneurship.
Well, I love Marge's line. She goes, these toys are just adorable. Who'd have guessed they were inspired by an insane criminal genius?
Yeah. And I love Reverend Lovejoy in this is in rare form. And we'll see how good my Lovejoy is right now.
It's intense.
We're going to set this pile of evil ablaze, but because these are children's toys, the fire will spread quickly.
It's so subversive, Yep.
And he also says the line, try not to inhale the toxic fumes, which is hilarious. So obviously...
And it does. It just like...
Correct.
Immediate bonfire.
And then we get the classic, ooh.
No, where your children's toys are coming through, listeners.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And we're back in court. And one of the things that they mentioned in the special that Kent Brockman had is that Krusty is a champion of child literacy. And so it's a shock in the court when we find out that Krusty the Clown is illiterate.
The lawyer is saying, can you tell us what item B is? And he can't figure out what it is because he can't read the letter B even.
Correct. And then the lawyer kind of is like, you see this, Krusty? This is a B. And you know what those are? Gambling slips for sports. And he's like, is it illegal to bet on sports games?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
I love the acting in that little bit where he's like, is it illegal to bet on sports gambling?
Yeah, because Krusty,
like, yes, it is.
Krusty is treating this as like his show, like any other entertainment venue. It doesn't click to him that he's on trial because he's in front of a crowd and he wants to perform.
Clueless.
Yeah. I also love how the jury finds Krusty guilty and his lawyer is so pissed. He's like, I knew it. This happens to me every time.
This happens to me every time. That's bad lawyer, Josh. He's never won a case.
No, he is. He's probably representing Giuliani at this point. Uh, now Sideshow Bob is in charge, and the whistle is gone, and Kelsey Grammer starts to shine with his trademark highbrow speaking style, a la Frasier. And he says something along the line of no longer being a slave to the slide whistle. And we find out that Lisa is watching this back at home, and Bart is pissed.
Well, I think it's important, Josh, to note that he's talking about what they're going to make the changes to the program, and they're all very positive changes. He's like, don't worry, we're still going to have Itchy and Scratchy, but we're also going to learn about nutrition, self-esteem, etiquette, and all of the lively arts, which is fantastic. Besides just mindless crap, he's trying to actually create something good for children.
We have this cute little bit where Bart is like, I just know he's innocent, and I need your help. And Lisa's kind of like, why do you need my help? And she very coyly makes him basically admit that she is smarter than he.
Yep.
And it's a very cute scene, and they decide to team up to solve the mystery together.
I like it when they do that. Josh is he goes and she laughs at that, but then Bart says, "So are you with me?" And she goes, "Yeah, man. Like I'm with you, brother."
Yeah, it's always nice when they decide to team up and work together. So suck it, Scooby and the gang. We got Lisa and Bart on the case.
That's right.
So the kids return to the scene of the crime, and it's basically a repeat joke where Lisa points something out. That's one of the 3 clues that we mentioned already. And then Bart overreacts, and then
Bart doesn't get it. Bart is clueless.
Right. So we got to go through this beat a few times, and they solve 2 of the 3 major clues. They figure out that the pacemaker in the microwave doesn't mix, and that the illiterate clown is reading a magazine. So something's off there.
I love it what Bart does. It's, Lisa's like, the microwave. People with pacemakers shouldn't use the microwave. He's like, so I don't have a pacemaker. She's like, no, you idiot.
Clueless.
The robber was using it, and he's supposed to have a pacemaker.
Yeah. So I love also how Bart, with this like innocence train in full gear, right? He says we should check in with Krusty's best friend, Sideshow Bob. Completely clueless. Like he's such a little kid that he thinks that just because they're co-stars means they're the best friends ever, which isn't necessarily the case.
I love Apu's line there at the end where he goes, hey, this is not a lending library. If you're not going to buy anything, then put it down or I'll blow your heads off.
Yeah. They have a little bit of a, while the kids are looking through for clues, Apu is very suspiciously eyeing them, seemingly shaken up from a robbery.
PTSD, definitely.
Yeah. So now the kids go to the show, and Bob is doing a dramatic reading of Man in the Iron Mask, and he sings a Cole Porter song. Which just kind of shows
every time we say goodbye, I die a little.
And it just kind of shows like we are definitely beyond the slapstick violent humor of Krusty and doing something a little bit more highbrow. It's almost like I feel like there should be an NPR break where they try to have like fundraising. You know what I mean? It's like one of those
exactly.
Kind of shows. Very.
It is definitely a PBS style show now, which is great. Yeah. PBS shows are amazing.
Yes, they are. But it is something that usually appeals.
And to get to hear Kelsey Grammer sing "Every Time We Say Goodbye" by Cole Porter, who I adore, is amazing.
Yep. And we have Bob afterwards being greeted with a bunch of people. Oh, you're doing a great job. All this other kind of stuff. And, he pretends to act sad that Krusty's, been arrested for this terrible crime. But then as soon as the door closes, we get a total tone shift, and we get the classic first time ever Sideshow Bob evil laugh.
Evil laugh. His kind of like crying turns into
Yeah, and very classic acting, change of emotion and state there. And then we have Bob Moore talking with more studio folks about merch, and he gets a notification that Bart and Lisa want to see him, and he makes a crack about being able to read and sign his own name, which is obviously Krusty.
I mean, like, that's intense. That's hardcore.
Yeah, and then we get another clue here. We see his large feet on the desk. A clue. Here.
Jinkies.
Yeah. So Bart and Lisa.
I'm trying to follow the script, man.
Yeah. Bart and Lisa enter the room to ask questions, but Bob doesn't have time and gives them tickets to the show. And of course, what I love is that there's one thing that he kept was the chant of "We love you, Bob." So even though it's like a more highbrow PBS like story, they're still doing like the chanting like they were doing in the beginning, which is very cult like.
What I love is he starts it out though. He goes, "Hello, children. Whom do you love?"
Yes,
It's
it's
some
a
good
little.
grammar in there.
It's
It's
a little
proper
bit
grammar finally.
correct. And of course, Bart refuses to be on board, and Bob notices him being sad and offers him to join a new segment about pre-adolescent turmoil called Choices.
It's so lovely.
It also sounds like just the most garbage level crap that you would see on like daytime TV. Back in like
Oh yeah, it's
the
total
the talk show era.
Donahue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Sally Jesse
Dr. Phil.
Raphael. Yes, all
But
that kind of
he's he stops the whole show and he's like, I see a youngster who looks troubled. Like he is like genuinely doing something wonderful, like
yeah.
trying to help a child.
And Bart begins to go over the evidence, but Bob is eloquently poking holes into it all the time. Stuff like, oh, you don't have to be literate to enjoy the lovely pictures in this fine magazine. And I
I like how
believe
he says, because it's this, he goes, you don't have to be able to read to enjoy the Springfield Review of Books. Just to look at these amazing caricatures of Gore Vidal and Susan Sontag. And Bart goes, haha, yes, I guess those are kind of funny.
And we also have the whole like Bart mentioning that he gets shot out of a cannon, and then Bob replies, "And he shot me out of a cannon." And I believe we have that clip ready to go if I didn't screw this one up. Number 5.
Let's try to remember Krusty not as a hardened criminal, but as that lovable jester who honked his horn and putted around in his little car.
And shot you out of a cannon.
And shot me out of a cannon.
That low
I
gravelly.
love that Bob line read. I mean, it's just fabulous. He goes from like cheerful and eloquent to angry, but still eloquent. And we also
Seething
have
rage.
the final clue comes in when Bob mentions big shoes to fill. And we have that line as well as my final clip for this episode, Big Shoes of number 6.
I admit I have some mighty big shoes to fill. Big but if shoes you give me to fill. I promise big shoes to fill. 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 In ancient Greece, there was a school of thought called Stoicism.
Wait a minute. You did it.
Excuse me.
And what I love is we get obviously the flashback, and Bart remembers that Krusty has small feet, but Bob, however, has giant feet that rival Shaq.
Yes, I mean, they're
monsters.
clownishly large.
Yeah, and what I love about it too is like he comes out of that trance and there's a mallet, just randomly a mallet on stage, and he hits one of Bob's feet. But then he kind of goes on and explains like all the evidence and everything like that, and then he hits the other foot too, which is fantastic. I love how he hits both feet. Good for you, Bart.
Bart's just now, he's like, he did it. Like this is his hero that is in jail because of this man. Like Bart's not taking any guff.
Right. And I mean, he was, recalcitrant to begin with participating in the show.
Yeah.
And now that he knows that like this asshole framed his hero, he's like,
not only was he like stealing his spotlight, but it turns out that he put him in jail to do so and framed him.
Yeah. So we cut to the cops who are just
robbing him of his freedoms.
We cut to the cops and they're just chowing down on donuts. And 2 of them are kind of like, how'd we miss that?
Because Bart has kind of proven that Sideshow Bob is guilty, and he brings up the other clues as well.
So
and the cop, I love it. What are the cops' names again?
Ed and Louie.
It's Lou and Eddie.
Lou and Eddie, yeah.
Yep.
And then Wiggum kind of leans over and he's like, get off your duffs, guys. Go get them. And so we have handcuffed Bob, and he's given a speech, basically for his reasons for framing Krusty in a very dramatic fashion, as one is to do. And he has, of course, a Scooby-Doo reference of, I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for these meddling kids. And he goes on to say, like, treat kids as equal. They're smarter than you think.
Yeah, as they're dragging him into the police car, his last breath he used to say, treat kids as equals. They're people too. They're smarter than you think. They're smart enough to catch me. because he's really an advocate for kids in this whole thing.
Yeah, no, he killed.
That's one of the things I love about this episode is he would have been a better Krusty for the kids.
Correct. He would have been more educational, more thoughtful, but he's also a villain. So this is weird, fun juxtaposition.
Mm-hmm.
So Wiggum and Homer apologize for the mix-up, and Krusty, says to there was one boy who always believed me, Bart. And
very sweet moment.
And the episode ends with Bart hanging up new autograph photo of him and Krusty, and we see way more merch than we did before. So I'm under the impression.
Oh
that
yeah,
Krusty,
all their merch was gone.
Right, it went to Feare. Right.
Yeah.
So this is all brand new merch that I'm assuming
he
that
loaded him up.
For being his savior and getting him out.
And there's a lot. Like it's like a kid's dream. It's every piece of merchandise has been delivered to him at this point. His room is chock full of it.
It's very reminiscent of like the opening of The Princess Bride with the kids' room, and it has like,
yes.
I'm like, you have like way more toys than I had growing up, and I had like about a third of those, and the Commodore 64. To date myself here.
No, I mean, it's clearly a generous gift, and exactly what the kid wanted. And he's just as happy as a clam. And it's a touching moment for me at the end there with Krusty and Bart. Like, he's like thanking him for literally saving his life.
Yeah, and it's, episode ends with a light switch going out and him like giving a relax, like, ah. So very, very nice ending. Sometimes I kind of make fun of The Simpsons because they just kind of
saved the day.
And they just kind of have to end the episode because all this wild and shit happened. But this story is very well written from a narrative perspective.
Yeah.
So going to my final thoughts.
Bart's journey in this is great.
Yes. My final thoughts. So this story-driven style is typical of season 1. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode first, famously, we do not do Simpsons episodes in order. But I wanted to establish this episode first for Sideshow Bob because so many things are referenced in this episode that'll be referenced in future Simpsons episodes and also future episodes featuring Sideshow Bob. Some of those are Patty and Selma versus Homer, Bob versus Lisa and Bart, Quickie Mart always getting robbed, Krusty being illiterate. All this stuff will show up in future episodes and will lay the groundwork for this classic. So while entertaining, it doesn't measure up to the more hilarious episodes. Which is a constant theme for season 1 as a whole.
It's they got to expand later.
Yes.
But they were still very subversive. The thing I love about this episode is these were the episodes that laid the groundwork for what got to be fleshed out into one of the greatest written shows of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I look at it too as writers come and go, as we'll talk about more with our next episode. But this very much reminds me of like James L. Brooks and his influence on the show. This guy comes from classic 3-camera sitcoms. And the first 2 seasons of The Simpsons feel like a 3-camera sitcom.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Well, what are your final thoughts for Krusty Gets Busted?
Well, I think that's it. Is I love the writing in this show. I mean, I love the writing in this one for the time. There was nobody out there writing these kind of subversive jokes. The kids at the beginning where this TV personality is like, who do you love? And they're like, you. Yeah. And he's like, what do you do if they're going to take me off the air? And they're like, kill ourselves. That is an indictment of American society back in 1990. You never would have seen that on TV before this show. Like it just wasn't considered commercial and bankable.
Right.
And
that's where the edge,
and especially not in a cartoon, Josh.
Well, and that's why that joke is so meta at the beginning, with the whole like, oh, are we going to cartoons would be in prime time if they were for adults.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons
it's a big deal.
Such buzz early on for these first couple of seasons, because they are doing all those things you said that aren't really normally done in a cartoon, or if they are done,
it was refreshing.
They're buried so deep below a joke that only like a few adults will get it here and there.
Which is definitely layered, and it's that's something as we've talked about before, one of the special things about this show.
Nice. Well, great job, me. And before we dive into our next
great
episode,
job, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. And before we dive into our next episode, let's take a brief commercial break.
Sponsored by the Robert Underdunk Terwilliger Jr. Prison Theatre Society.
Greetings and salutations, my fellow felons. Are you doing hard time, but it's moving slower than a snail on a glue trap? When committing crimes, were you really acting instead of acting out? Are you a sociopath who loves the spotlight? Was your desire to be sent opening night flowers, but were sent to the penitentiary instead?
So if you're in prison, you're in luck. The Robert Underdunk Terwilliger Jr. Prison Theater Society is looking for actors. The summer prison theater scene is booming. Just listen to these endorsements.
Prisoner 908B. Before I was a lowly burglar. Now, thanks to the Theater Society, I'm stealing scenes instead of screens.
Prisoner 420M. At last, public nudity is applauded instead of shunned.
Prisoner 666S. I'm excited to bring my real-life experience to Sweetie Todd.
With prisoner praise like this, how can anyone resist the call of the theater? Sign up at your local prison library today.
And now, back to our show. Well, I have to say, I think our sponsorship is doing much better since we got rid of Carol. Like, just fantastic. I mean, the theater program, prison, like, we're helping out so many
it's
people
a
who
good
need the
cause.
help.
Yeah.
I
Have you ever been in the theater, Josh?
No,
very
I'm
noble.
I'm thespian adjacent. So both my siblings were.
Okay.
I definitely hung out with a lot of the theater kids when I was in high school because
Yes.
they had some good
We're
weed
fun.
and were fun. And as you can tell with me doing this podcast and the silly voices, I do have a certain affinity for the arts and people who perform. I just never have done it myself. I think a big part of it is just fear. Much like the reason I don't do open mic night is the idea of me getting in front of a bunch of people and speaking is kind of scary. Me hiding behind a microphone with no visual added element, I'm a little bit more bold and willing to go out there.
You're doing fantastic.
Aw, thanks, buddy.
I myself, Josh, have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in drama from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. So, look, theater was my life for a long time. There's a lot of theater jokes that the Simpsons writers do. I think that a lot of them knew a lot of theater references, obviously.
Yeah. I will shout out to my sister Samantha, who played Cogsworth in the 8th grade Lawrence Middle School play Beauty and the Beast. And we basically took a refrigerator box and made it look like the clock.
Nice.
Which was hilarious in its own extent. And I was really like, I did enjoy going to see both of my siblings perform, but that one especially sticks out to my memory. And there's another one where a friend of mine went to go see their show. I don't remember anything about the show other than the fact that there's a horse on stage that simulates pooping by dropping a brown Lego brick.
Hey, at least it's not Equus, is all I'm saying.
But it just kind of cracked me up that like we're sitting there and we like just look at this horse and then out of the back a giant brown Lego hits the ground, makes a very loud noise because it's plastic on wood basically.
We did Into the Woods.
Yeah, and my friend and I just starts fucking laughing our asses off at this bit.
That's what you're supposed to do.
And
that's why they do it.
No one else
is always funny.
I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, that's amazing.
We did Into the Woods, the Sondheim musical, Into the Woods, and there's a cow, isn't it? And we definitely had the plop coming out every time the cow was on.
Fabulous. Well, your pick is from season 5, episode 2, Cape Feare, directed by Rich Moore and written by John Vitti, with a first air date of 10/7/1993. So we're just 4 years later, and Sideshow Bob is still going strong. So why did you pick Cape Feare?
This one has always stood out to me, and looking back, what was it that stood out is it was a couple of gags in it that just stuck in the memory, but I also loved Sideshow Bob in this, and I love Kelsey Grammer, and Kelsey Grammer sings Gilbert and Sullivan in this episode, and I love Gilbert and Sullivan. So it's a lot of things about this episode that I love and remembered, and watching it again for the first time in a while in depth was a blast.
Nice. I mean, this is definitely the upper echelon of Sideshow Bob episodes. It might be my favorite, and it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely the one that I've seen the most. I like how in 2003, Entertainment Weekly named this the third greatest episode in the history of the show. And Al Jean has described Cape Fear as his favorite Sideshow Bob episode and maybe his favorite Simpsons episode.
There's a lot of commentary about this episode, and one of there's a couple things they say about that is it's very divisive. There's a lot of people who really didn't like this episode, certain things about this episode. But Matt Groening actually had a couple of things where he was like, "That wasn't my choice."
Correct.
About this episode, it was interesting. This episode is going to come up again, but this episode was the last episode with all of the original writers and producers and directors, the original crew. And this was the last one. After this, a lot of contracts were up and they walked.
Yeah, I to kind of flash forward a little bit, I particularly love the story of how this is like Conan O'Brien's first year working on The Simpsons. And he got this job thinking that there's going to be this amazing original writers crew, that brought us.
He was going to get to work with.
He's going to get to work with them. And then the majority of them's contracts were up and moved on to other things.
All of them.
Yeah.
He was the only one left from that crew.
So they were kind of cracking up about like how they just kind of left Conan out to dry.
But if there's anybody, we both, I would say, love Conan O'Brien and his contributions on many levels. If you have not listened to his podcast, it's one of my very favorites, not my favorite currently. And
obviously his
except for Sacrilicious, of course.
Yes. Obviously too, his history as a host, right, for late night television is epic. Him
decades.
And Andy Richter, like, very much shaped my idea of humor and what it is.
100%.
Even like my bad impressions of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know what I'm doing this? It's really based on Conan because he used to have that little bit.
Year 2000.
Yes, exactly. I love the year 2000. It was such an amazing year. You have no idea. I was just going there and it was just fantastic. And he would have this bit where just the lips are moving, but it's like a still shot of Arnold.
He used to do those. It would just be a picture and then they just had the lips replaced.
Yeah, exactly. And then they had like, Triumph the Insult dog comic, Masturbating Bear. Conan, I also love too when he got screwed over, obviously, and Jay Leno took back the show.
Mm-hmm.
They had a running bit when it was his last week on the network, and he was trying to spend as much money as possible. So he had like Maserati Mouse and like all these other like just ridiculous like props that he was using to kind of blow through the budget and make the studios pay, so to speak.
Maserati Mouse.
And I will also say too, during that whole debacle, he kept such a positive outlook. And on his last episode, he said, "Please, fans, don't be cynical. These things happen. I'll be fine. The crew will be fine. We'll move on. Don't be cynical." And I really like that message because it was very easy to, during that whole debacle of late night being changed up and him, in my opinion, getting screwed over. I will be cynical. Sorry, Conan. But I love how he was out there with a message of positivity despite the circumstances. So kudos to you, Conan. And, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend is a fantastic podcast. And I liked his Max show, Conan Without Borders, as well.
He had a huge hand in guiding The Simpsons into what we think of as the golden era.
Yes, 100%. Especially one that comes to mind, especially that he had a heavy hand in, is Homer Goes to College.
So that's actually the next episode. And we're going to have to do it at some point because it's got my favorite line in it, which is, "I am so smart." He's lit his GED on fire. I am so smart.
Yeah.
SMRT.
Yeah. And I could continue.
Meanwhile, the whole house is burning down.
Right. But we're not here to talk about that episode.
I know we should probably.
Cape Fear.
What do you got for us today? Oh, wait, no, it's me.
Yeah.
All right, Josh. Today.
I'm going to start off with one thing. The chalkboard gag. Did you see this one? Did this one hit your radar?
It did not.
It says the cafeteria deep fryer is not a toy. So, question time. What did he do? What did Bart do with the deep fryer? What do you think he did?
The erasers, or all of the pencils, or like his school books.
Like, did he
you know?
replace the fish sticks with like fried chalk?
That'd be great. That'd be great. And the
Anyway,
kids would know the difference, of course.
yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and as we and also like you said with the DVD commentary, the whole attitude for this episode is, what are you gonna do? Fire us?
Right. I mean, it's a big part of this is that they're literally gone after this
Yeah,
episode. This is the last thing they did before they left on not great terms because the network didn't want to pay them the gobs that they had basically asked for. And of course, it went on to be this amazing thing. You could see it at moments like they are not adhering to any of the limits at all,
correct.
which is fantastic. All right, so
Yeah,
we're gonna get into it, Josh.
let's do it.
You
Yep.
Cape Fear. So this is obviously a take on the movie. It's a very good movie. You've seen it before?
I've seen the Robert De
A while
Niro one.
ago.
I haven't seen the
Yeah.
original.
I haven't seen the original either. Maybe I have a long time ago.
Yeah.
But the one that came out in 1991, Robert De Niro, Nick Nolte.
Yep.
It is a fantastic movie. It was Juliette Lewis is in it. It was a sensation, and so it's very much in the public consciousness. And this is a take on it, and it's the theme is they're actually kind of doing a take by take retelling of that story with the Simpsons,
Which doesn't happen too often. A lot of times
Mm-mm.
they just do their satirical parts and they'll reference something, but they rarely
Right.
do like a beat for beat. It's not a
Maybe a
retelling.
couple of gags
Yeah.
relating to a movie, but this is pretty rare.
Yeah, the whole episode is based off of this movie, almost beat for beat.
100%. The music is all from the actual movie, which interestingly, the music was written originally for the 1960s version and then used the same soundtrack again for the 1991 film. And they used the actual music from the show in The Simpsons, which they did because they're like, we got the budget for it because we're
Yeah.
out of here tomorrow. But it's a fantastic soundtrack. Let me play. We could start off.
Yes, give
Cape
us a sample of
Fear.
those horns.
Bum, 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 bum.
Man, it makes me want to write threatening letters.
Chilling. So, all right, we start on the kids watching television. Okay,
Yeah.
is we open and they are watching Up Late with McBain, and McBain, the famous German Austrian actor.
He's supposed to be like the Arnold Schwarzenegger
Like
of the
Arnold,
Simpsons
yeah.
universe, yeah.
And they've given him a late night show, and they said that they've modeled it after like the Arsenio Hall show.
Correct.
So Fox tried to do this Arsenio Hall show if you've never seen it, and they try to be hip, and it kind of worked out. One of the interesting things they said is he had Wynton Marsalis or Branford Marsalis as his band leader, and they did not have any chemistry whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so we have McBain. He says like he comes out. He's like, "Hello, this is my show. Let's say hello to my music guys, Zoe." And it's this band leader, and he goes, "That is some outfit, Zoe. Makes you look like a homosexual."
Boo, boo,
And the crowd's like booing, and he goes, maybe you are all homosexual.
Double
The
boo,
crowd is-
boo, boo, boo.
And it's hilarious. It's just like terrible. And and Bart's
I
like,
also
this
like
is
how
horrible.
the announcer for the show is an SS officer,
Yes,
like in the full Nazi regale. Like they're not hiding any.
I can't remember his name. I didn't write it down, but
I
it's
didn't
a
write his name
phenomenal.
down either. You just have to know he's in the stereotypical like full on SS uniform.
So at least it has the crack when Bart's like, this is terrible. They're back at Simpson's house. And she goes, the Fox network is sunk to a new low, which is fantastic because obviously it's on Fox and they take digs at their own network. And I mean, networks were so powerful. They still very much are, less so, I think.
Well, to interject,
they
Fox
didn't mess
Fox
with networks.
was new.
Yes.
Fox was not an established
kid on the block,
historical
yeah.
network. It came like in what, the 80s? It started to exist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
because,
but it was late 80s, is around 88, 89, I think, 87.
and one of the powerhouses of the the show is James L. Brooks, and he
Yeah.
had sway with these networks in the studios and was able to
Mm-hmm.
say like, no, we're not taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if this was on a more established network like ABC, CBS, NBC, it would have been a little bit different. But because it's on this new network that's trying to get its footing, and this is the only show that's really popular, they got away a lot more.
The idea that how are we going to catch up and like
Right.
gain viewership is we have to do something different and push the envelope.
Yeah, and they made jokes in that in other episodes as well, where like the Simpsons are saving the network over and over and over again, and they also make fun of the network owner Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch. So in other episodes as well.
Horrible
So never
man.
never shy about pulling
Horrible
the
human
punches.
being.
Yeah.
His son is still the chief officer.
Yeah. And now, so we get some pen pal action, right?
So this is the big crux of that was just kind of a gag to start out with,
Right.
and we go back to the Simpson house, and Marge grabs the mail, and she sees that Lisa has a letter and Bart has a letter, and so she hands it to Lisa, and she has a moment I know that you really enjoyed,
Yeah.
where Lisa's like, "Oh, it's from my pen pal Anya." Do you want to read the voice? You want me to read it?
Sure. So it starts off with a sweet little girl's voice, and then all of a sudden, halfway through, it gets into a gruff revolutionary who says along the lines, "All hail Kroll and his glorious new regime. Sincerely, little girl."
Little girl.
So it's a
It's
very
like
fun
her
audio
voice
joke.
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And Lisa's reaction too, like when it happens, she's like, "Oh, she's been sent to a re-education camp."
Yeah, the pen pal is gone. All hail Kroll.
So Bart, we're gonna finally start the actual energy of this episode.
Yeah.
Bart gets a letter too, and it says, "I'm going to kill you in blood," very simply. And we see a great transition across, to a cell, and you can't see who it is. We don't know who it is yet, and there's somebody who is writing another, threatening letter to Bart, and it says, "Die, Bart, die." And he takes another sheet of paper. He starts making a list. He's like, "Threaten Bart, check. Do laundry, check. Bind corn holders."
Yeah, which seems very weird for a to-do list from prison, right?
I call this part, "I'm going to kill you and then do my shopping."
Yeah, but it's again like it always kind of threw me off that he was so worried about corn holders. Like, is he just like
he had to write it down.
Yeah,
he needed some corn in prison.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
There's a lot of corn in prison.
So we get another Itchy and Scratchy cartoon, and it references something that we talked about in our last episode.
Yes, we're back to Bart and Lisa watching TV, and it's the Krusty the Clown show, and we got Itchy and Scratchy, and Scratchy's walking by the hospital, and Scratchy, the mouse is covering up the sign so that it looks like it says, "Pay your pet $75." And Itchy sees it, and he's like, "Great, I'm gonna go in." And then he moves, and it says, "Spay your pet," which is cutting off their reproductive organs, if anybody doesn't know.
Thanks for the education, Robin.
Yes, of course.
So we get another Goldfinger, right? We're back to Goldfinger.
Wait, which one? Why am I getting this? Which one is Itchy? Itchy is the mouse.
Itchy's the mouse. Scratchy's the cat.
All right, cool. So Scratchy is Itchy was the one that tricked him into going in.
Yeah, correct.
And so he's immediately grabbed by orderlies, pushed down this table, and we get a reference again to Goldfinger, the famous laser scene, slicing up the table towards his crotch, which makes some sense in the surgery. And it's funny, we don't plan these things.
No, we don't. And I love how in the deleted scene, so like in the actual cartoon, we see the tongue of Scratchy kind of zigs and zag around the lasers to unplug the machine, and the mouse immediately runs back to plug it back in and finish the job. But
He
then in
thinks
the
he puts a great effort in to like save himself, and then the
right,
mouse just is like, just plugs it back in,
and then there's
and
a
it
deleted
zaps him into 1,000 little pieces.
there's a deleted scene where Itchy sews to Scratchy back together, kind of
All
like
the little pieces, yeah.
kind of like a Frankenstein
Yep.
model, right? Hands him a bill. He then like freaks out because the bill is so high, and then Itchy hands him a revolver, and the cat proceeds to blow his brains out. So famously throughout this DVD commentary, they always say that they were short on time, so they always are extending things left and right. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't do the extended version of the Itchy and Scratchy cartoon because it's a little dark.
Oh, it's dark, but it's hilarious. I mean, that is an indictment of the American healthcare system and America at large. Is
Yeah,
you sew him back together and then charge him for it after they cut him
right.
up.
There's just something so visceral about being handed a gun. And I think if his head just kind of exploded in a cartoon fashion, I wouldn't have
No,
bugged me as much.
I definitely think this is Conan O'Brien's influence. Like that is
Yeah.
definitely like a Conan O'Brien. Like let's take the joke too far.
Yeah, and oddly enough, Bart isn't laughing for the first time ever.
No, and so Lisa's laughing and Bart's not, and of course they always laugh together. It's one of the big bits in the show, and so Lisa's like, "What's wrong?" And so then he tells the family that he got this letter, and all the families stand around, including Grandpa, and they're looking, and they've laid out these letters on the table, and there's several of them. And Marge points to one. He's like, "This one's in different handwriting." And Homer's like, "Oh, that was mine. Bart put this tattoo on my butt somehow." And it says,
and the tattoo says "wide load," which is amazing. And the
He's
entire
like-
family laughs their ass off. And we even get Nelson, who's just like
Nelson
randomly
walks
out of the kitchen window to get the
we get a random. I love the idea of him sneaking in and tattooing him in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But they're trying to like figure out who it is, who would do this to Bart. And Grandpa is him. He's like, "I say we call Matlock. He is probably that evil Gavin McLeod or George Cooper Lindsay." And these are the evil people he's talking about. And
Right.
of course, that is the Love Boat captains, Gavin McLeod and Goober from the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, okay.
The two
I didn't
people
pick
he's
up on any
referring
of that
to.
stuff. I just was like, oh, grandpa stuff. He's referencing something
This is-
outdated.
It's like early 80s references.
Yeah.
So they're trying to figure out who it was. They don't know who it is. So we transition to the school, and Milhouse has been out trying to circulate and see if it's somebody in the school that's sending these letters. And he comes back and he's like, "I checked around. The girls are calling you fatty, fatty, fat, fat. And Nelson's planning on pulling your pants down, but no one's trying to kill you here." Bart's like, "Oh, that's good." And then Nelson pulls down his pants, and all the girls start chanting like, "Fatty, fatty, fatty, fat, fat, fatty, fatty, fat, fat." Oh, so then we transition to Bart's room. He's on his bed sleeping, and his alarm goes off, and it goes, "All right, this is dedicated to Bart Simpson with the message, 'I am coming to kill you slowly and painfully.'" And it plays "White Bow."
Yeah.
It's a very well chosen song for that moment. It's pretty creepy.
It's very funny, and I really like the upcoming bits we get because
they do like a vignette of Bart being really in this state of tension and fear because he thinks somebody's trying to kill him.
Yeah, a lot of misdirects from menacing to humorous.
They do, like, they overplay the joke a little bit again. The writers were leaving the next day. They're like, "We're gonna lean in on it, and we're gonna do some shit that we might not be normally able to do."
I think it was Matt who was on the commentary was talking especially about the Freddy Krueger glove that Ned uses to trim the hedges because he's like, it's so menacing, like he's so evil.
Well, but he was referencing the fact that, like, why would he say that to Bart in such a menacing way?
Correct.
You know, so it's he comes down and Marge has scissors and she's like, "I'm going to get you." And Bart's like, oh, and it's like some ice cream. And then he rushes outside, and Ned's there with his Freddy Krueger
Right.
glove trimming his hedges. And he goes, what does he say? He says,
Something along the lines of like you should say your prayers
say
because
your
the school's
prayers, Bart.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly it.
yeah,
Say your prayers. And he goes, oh, because they don't force you in schools anymore like they should.
yeah. They also
And
make a comment about how why is the angel supposed to be so menacing? You know, because they have the Cape Fear soundtrack in the background, the horns, right? And but it just shows Ned, and he's just like kind of shearing, you know, away, and it's a very nice angel.
You should see Josh and I right now. We're looking at each other, both
we're
doing
the hand
like the
gestures.
hand thing, like we're scratching with these claws.
Yeah.
A great little. It's a fun gag, and
we also get Bart being the murder victim in the school play, which is so specific. And what is Martin?
Because the last one is Krabappel saying, "You're gonna be my murder victim, Bart." And he's like, "Ah!" In our school production of Lizzie Borden, and they have Martin Prince as Lizzie Borden, and it's a hilarious gag. He looks. Is one of my favorite things because he's so excited about it. Clearly, he's in a dress with a wig on and an axe. He's like, 3 wax to the wet noodle, Bart.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I also love how the wig isn't quite fitting perfectly, like with a little tuft of Martin's hair coming out of it.
It's elementary, probably public elementary school, you know.
Yeah, and so Marge does something logical. She goes to the police. Who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thunk it?
Well, so we leave our, stressed to the gills. Bart and Marge has gone to talk to Chief Wiggum, of course, and has asked him to help her with this situation. Somebody's trying to kill her son. And he goes, I'd like to help you, ma'am. There's no law against mailing threatening letters.
And then he's immediately interrupted by Lou. He's like, actually, Chief, there is. It's right here in the books.
I love when Marge goes, I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah. I also love how Wiggum is reading further down. And he's like, it's also illegal to put squirrels down your pants for the purposes of gambling. And it cuts to the exact
back room
happening in the back room with the cops.
All the other officers are back there.
Yeah, they're like all giggling and shit like that and gambling. And like,
cut it out, boys.
Yeah.
God. That's great.
You got to watch your nuts when you have squirrels in your pants. I can tell you that.
So the police aren't being any help. So Lisa, we're back at the house. Bart's on the couch. Lisa comes in. She's like, I figured it out, Bart. Who is someone we've been making irritating phone calls to all these years? And there's this rando joke in this week. Bart says Linda Lavin, and Linda Lavin is this actress from the 50s, 60s, and on, who was a wonderful humanitarian. And you look her up sometime. And so nobody really has a beef against her. So apparently,
gotcha.
The kids hate Linda Lavin.
But he does potentially have beef with our favorite bartender,
who as we know. Oh, I just made me think, Josh, is we have not done a prank phone call yet in any of our episodes. I don't believe.
Not yet.
Famously, one of the gags early on that carried on for a long time was Bart and Lisa calling up Mo and doing like, I want to kiss some guy. I can't remember what the jokes are.
I want Amanda hug and kiss. Amanda hug and kiss.
Amanda hug and kiss.
Yeah, IP Freely, see more butts.
Exactly.
Mike Roch.
And so they call. They think that it's Mo getting back at Bart by sending these threatening letters. And so Lisa calls up, and she's like actively trying to help her brother out. They got each other's back when the chips are down. And she's like, we know what you're doing, Mo. Cut it out. And Mo's like, okay.
I love too. He has pandas in boxes in the back.
He's like, we'll stop what we're doing.
And this is like one of those jokes where like Mo has various nefarious side businesses in the back of his bar.
Oh, he's shady as hell.
Yeah. And I like how on the commentary they said like, so what's our headcanon for this? I guess like he's like smuggling in pandas from China to sell them to local zoos.
Right. What a profit. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had it all worked out in there, Andale. So Then we cut to Bart in his room, and Bart is at the end of his tether, and he screams out the window. He's like, "I know you're out there somewhere. Where?" And now we get this beautiful pan across town, which they were very appreciative of in the commentary, and it's beautiful, and it has a stormy sky, and it cuts across Springfield and to the penitentiary and goes into the cell, and finally we find out who it is, and it's
we got, I think, Sideshow Bob.
Sideshow Bob.
I think we have a clip for this too.
We certainly do.
Dear life in these United States, a funny thing happened to me. Oh.
Use a pen, Sideshow Bob.
Use a pen, Sideshow Bob.
Also, I really, with the audio medium only and the sound of the wet finger writing on that kind of disturbed me right now. I have to admit, I'm a little shaken up just hearing like the writing of like the finger very well
the
done.
Swish sound.
Yeah, it's something you don't really pick up unless you're wearing headphones, I think.
They do a good job at those choices in this show. It's one of the things that makes it rich, and that I
also like how Bob and Snake are like the best of buds as prison mates.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah. And so we cut to Snake is at a parole hearing,
right?
And they I love that when they cut to this, Josh. There's a sign outside the penitentiary that says "America's fastest growing prison."
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty good.
So
I also love how there's an exchange between Bob and Snake. And
well, so Snake is on a parole board, and they parole him. They're like, "Bang, you're out,
easy peasy."
Yes, and that's when Bob is like, "Take care, Snake. May the next time we meet be under more felicitous circumstances." Take care. It's a great little moment. We both love both of these characters.
And it's a great juxtaposition because you have the unelegant, ignorant Snake versus the highly educated, suave Bob.
But they work together.
Yeah, no, it works out great. And I just love how he's just kind of it's perfect.
So now it is Sideshow Bob's turn. He is up to before the parole board, and of course, as we know, he was caught red-handed, like the both times. So this is the third Sideshow Bob episode. The previous one, he was engaged to Selma,
correct,
Marge's sister, and then tried to kill them both. And so he's now in for attempted murder beyond our original episode, which was the theft and the framing of Krusty the Clown.
Right. So we have the various victims of his past crimes coming on, just basically recapping. And this is what we do with every Sideshow Bob episode for The Simpsons. There's always like a recap, and it's usually pretty brief. But for this one, we have some of the fun jokes with like Chief Wiggum being, he's like, he calls me Chief Pigum. And
and everybody laughs. He's like, oh, I guess I get it.
Yeah, and then like Selma, like saying he's trying to kill me, and then the lawyer,
well,
says like, who's thinking about killing her right now? And everybody, even her sister.
So she's on the stand, and she's like, he tried to murder me, and he's like, let's be honest, everybody, we all want to kill her. And he's like, raise your hand if you also want to kill her. And everybody raises their hand, including her sister, who has the great line, Josh, where she goes, what? She's always leaving the toilet seat up.
Yeah. Random. Super random.
But implying that she has a penis.
Yes. That is the joke.
Or she pees standing up.
Or both.
Both, probably.
Yeah. So, I also love how the blue-haired lawyer is basically setting up Charming Bob to go through everything. So, they have it. He has a tattoo on his chest, "Die Bart, die." And
it's great because he's he goes, all right, so if you're released, are you going to be a threat to Bart Simpson? He's like, no. And he goes, Yes, there's a line I love. Is he goes, no, 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 no. That spirited little scamp who twice foiled my evil schemes and sent me to this dank, urine-soaked hellhole. And the board member's like, we object to the term urine-soaked hellhole when you could have said pee-pee-soaked heck hole. He goes,
Cheerfully
cheerfully
withdrawn.
withdrawn. Classic Kelsey Grammer. So he goes, yeah, but what about your tattoo? It says die Bart die. And he goes, oh no, that's German for thee Bart, thee.
And
And
then
everyone's
one of
like,
the board
oh.
members has a great line and goes, "No one who speaks German can be evil."
It's one of the great moments. So they parole him. Everybody's like, just
Yep.
please Bob. It is no, it's the Bart, the. He also has a tattoo on his back that's Bart's severed head.
Yeah.
Um,
I also find it that they lied. They totally lied to us. He's not going out to corn holders right away. He goes to the movie.
right. So we've moved on. He's been paroled. So there's a great scene of that based off of Cape Fear. There's a scene exactly like in the movie where he exits the gates of the penitentiary. And we then get into the phase of this episode where they do back-to-back references to the film, specifically the 91 film, but also some to the original one. And so we have a very famous scene, which is a movie theater scene from Cape Fear, where the family is watching a movie and somebody is sitting in front of them being loud, like laughing really loudly and smoking a cigar in the theater. And
wearing the Hawaiian shirt, just like Robert De Niro's character does in Cape Fear.
Exactly.
And they're watching some Ernest movie.
Yeah. So were you an Ernest fan?
Nope. I thought it was annoying.
I didn't like all of the stuff that he did, but like Ernest Goes to Camp, there was a couple that I watched a ton as a kid, and just liked the guy. He also did Sprite commercials, and my dad, and they were very funny. I was a fan of his.
He did a bunch of advertisement. Like that's what I primarily remember that character from, because like, "Hey Vern," and it would be some kind of ad.
Hey Vern, that was his signature opening to everything he did. It was Hey Vern.
So I love some of the visual gags we have here, because we have obviously Bob is supposed to be the one who's annoying, right, with the smoking of the cigar and the stupid loud laughing that's extra obnoxious. But of course, Homer is no slouch in the department.
Exactly.
And he has a giant
so well.
Right. And he has a giant cigar about the Knoxville Fair, right?
It's the size of a football.
Yeah. And then he, like, some toilet humor happens and he starts laughing maniacally.
He's like, excuse me, sir. Do you mind? And then Ernest's head gets stuck in a toilet, and Homer just starts laughing way more obnoxiously than the evil character is supposed to be. And then he starts like pounding him on the back, like, isn't this great? And Bob's like, oh, really? That's too much. And then we get one of the great takes from this, and it goes,
Sideshow Bob!
Absolute classic.
Which is what they say every time they run into Sideshow Bob again. That
from here on out.
Every time since the first one. So that's a lot of fun. And then
so we have that the where they're doing that scene with Homer and him.
Wow, public library. We'll stay here for a while, Vern. Don't get my head out of this toilet.
Fantastic. Oh, Homer is amazing.
Yeah, I also love the line too, that I think we also have a clip for, where
so let's set it up.
Okay,
let's set it up is that if it's Sideshow Bob, and Marge is like, you stay away from my son. He goes, is this the one I think that you're referring to? And he goes,
yeah,
you awful man, stay away. And he goes, oh, I'll stay away from your son, all right. Stay away forever.
And what's great is that he realizes a half a tick later that that's a terrible line. He
Wait,
gets
that's no
so
good.
upset and he runs away. But then you hear like the pitter patter of feet
He
coming
goes
back,
running
right?
back.
And he's like, Marge, say that line again. And she very much.
Wait, I've got a good one now. Marge, say, stay away from my son again.
No!
I love the line delivery of no. The no line delivery is fantastic. And also, I just realized that I had these clips way out of order. So good job managing the soundbar there, Robin.
Hey, it's a work in progress. We are an ever growing bush, you and I, Josh.
Yeah, and I do like Marge doesn't have too many lines in this episode because it's very Bart centric. But that interaction and one later on that I'll bring up later is fantastic as well.
Well, I mean, we say this a lot, but the actors on the show are amazing. The guest stars that come in, everybody's committed. They are truly gifted at this art, and it's impressive. And we are all the beneficiaries of it. So then we get our second overt, or third possibly, overt reference to the movie Cape Fear. And in the original, Nick Nolte and his family are the ones that are being tracked, and he hires like a PI, kind of a rough man, to help him like secure his house. And they do this thing because I don't know, they didn't have burglary systems back there, or they thought they could do it, so they string wire all over the house and tie it to a teddy bear, so he knows that if he comes in anywhere, he'll know where it is.
Yeah,
and he has a gun, and he's like, if you get him into your house, you can do anything you want, meaning you can kill him. And Homer's like, oh, really? Oh, Ned, could you come over here, please? And he goes, it doesn't work if you, invite them in.
So what I
Ned
love
shows up, he's like, howdly doodly.
Go home.
Oakley dokley, toodly doo. I think is what he says.
Yeah, and then we get another PI in our episodes. We see.
This is one of my favorites, Josh.
Yeah.
Another one that I loved from this. Again, he says, I am very persuasive. I'm going to get him to leave town, and you think that he's going to, rough him up, which is a big scene from the movie, by the way, where he hires somebody specifically to go and just beat the absolute shit out of Robert De Niro in the movie. So he's like, I'm going to be persuasive. And it switches to him. And this is how he negotiates, which is what things
Come on, leave town.
No.
I'll be your friend.
No.
Oh, you're mean.
Oh, you're mean.
No.
So everything they're trying to do is failing. Like they didn't get him with the wires, and they didn't get him with the PI.
I'm still confused about the wires. I know we already passed that, but I had no idea how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, so in the movie it makes a bit of sense where he's rigged every opening so that he'll know exactly where it's coming from, basically.
What is he, Spider-Man? Anyway, like we don't have to dwell on that too long. I just thought that part.
Can you picture Nick Nolte as Spider-Man?
No, I can't.
So now Bob is getting like more and more bold, and he's driving through down their street, and he's on a loudspeaker, and he goes,
I think we got this clip. We got clip B.
Do we have this one?
Yep.
The following neighborhood residents will not be killed by me. Ned Flanders, Maud Flanders.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Homer Simpson, Marge Simpson, Lisa Simpson, that little baby Simpson. That is all.
Woohoo! Did you hear, Bart?
Oh. One of the things of this show, Homer's a dick in this episode.
He's a very big dick, and I love just how, first off, he didn't mention Rod and Todd Flanders.
I know.
Is he going to kill Rod and Todd? Is he going to kill them all? Is he going to go for a threesome?
Maybe it's little boys.
I also love how he says, that little baby Simpson. That line cracks me up, really, because like, how would he know Maggie's name, but he knows there's a baby?
Right, absolutely. Everybody knows.
But
She's
here's the
famous.
thing, like, he went to their house for dinner when he was dating Selma.
That's exactly right.
But
He
regardless,
was
it's a
almost
fun.
Uncle
It's
Sideshow Bob.
correct. It's a fun gag though when he just says that baby Simpson. I like that one a lot.
Like, that is all.
Now I forget. Is this another one that's straight from the movie? Did Robert De Niro's character go around in an ice cream truck announcing who he was going to kill?
You know what? I don't know. I don't
Okay,
know the answer to that question. I
fair
don't
enough.
remember it. And maybe in the future we'll watch it and we'll have a callback.
Yeah,
So it's clear now that Bart's life is in danger. So they've
it's only now it's
escalated
clear.
it.
It's only now clear.
Oh, it's only now clear. So we've escalated it. Everything else has worked. That they are now meeting with the FBI witness relocation department.
Yep,
And this is one of the best scenes in this whole
it's so good.
episode. And so they're like, don't worry, Mrs. Simpson. We've helped hundreds of people in danger. We're going to give you a new name, a new job, and a new identity for the family. And Homer's like, ooh, I want to be John Elway.
From the Denver Broncos. We're back, baby. Here's our second
Another
reference
one.
to the last episode. And also, it's also very funny because it shows that like the praise of the Denver Broncos is like all over the place, right? Because like they recognize that John Elway is a significant quarterback skill wise. And what I love is that he scores a touchdown for 7 points, but it's the end of the game and the 49ers are like decimating the Broncos.
This is it. Well, it's like John Elway with his patented comeback.
Yeah. And it just kind of made me laugh that not only do we get the Goldfinger reference from the Scorpio episode, but now we get a Denver Broncos reference as well. And again, folks, we don't plan this out. This is just happy coincidences. And it did make me laugh extra hard at that joke because of this podcast versus like the joke itself.
That's it, of course. There's another piece of that's really funny where Bart goes, I'll be Gus, the lovable chimney sweet. Clean as a whistle, sharp as thistle, best in all Westminster. Yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely feeling the musicals in this one.
It's something funny about,
I also
Mary
like
Poppins
how they are given T-shirts and mugs that say "Witness Relocation Program."
Only Homer's wearing it. To be fair, is that Homer's for the next couple of scenes is wearing a hat that says WLP,
right?
And he has a Witness Relocation WRP, I guess, T-shirt on. Like that's counterintuitive.
And they get a new car, new identity, and a new
home. So they're telling them about the places they can go,
right?
And that list is pretty spectacular.
It is a pretty funny list.
It's Cape Feare, Terror Lake,
yep,
New Horror Field, or Screamville.
Ice Creamville.
No, Screamville.
Oh.
He goes. Ah! So they got to give him a new identity. Which is the whole part of this piece, is that he's like, all right, from now on, you're Homer Thompson at Terror Lake. And Homer's like, okay. And he goes, when I say, hello, Mr. Thompson, you say hi. Let's practice it. And he goes, check. And he goes, hello, Mr. Thompson. And Homer just sits there just like he's not referring to him at all.
And then we get
I remember.
We get the escalation of the joke too, so the guy reinforces it over and over and over again to the point where
he's like, Homer's just not picking up. They do a transition to clearly later, like they're all tired. They've been smoking cigarettes trying to get this done for hours.
Yeah, like the ties are loosened and like the family is bored.
They're like bent,
Yeah, and he goes something along the lines of like, when I look you directly in the eye and stomp your foot, I am talking to you. And Homer is still oblivious.
You just nod.
Yeah,
and he goes, hi, Mr. Thompson. And Homer looks at the FBI agent behind him. He goes, I think you're talking to you.
Yeah.
That's one of the best gags in this whole thing, though. Is it is Homer at his best. Is reminiscent of one of I think the original episode. No, maybe not. Is because that was a Christmas episode.
Correct.
When they're all as a family taking lie detector tests because they're trying to go to therapy to be closer.
Yeah.
But Homer is just so clueless. It's kind of fantastic. So now we get to where they're transitioning to their new life. They've been given a convertible because that's the safest car when somebody's trying to kill you. and
Also,
they're
the
on a
one when
road
you're
trip.
leaving town, it's always good to have a convertible so everyone can see you leave town.
Right, exactly. And so the callback that we need to mention is on this road trip is they've included the uh, the Light Opera Society sings the complete Gilbert and Sullivan, the FBI
Yeah, I was just
Light
gonna say
Opera
it's the
Society.
FBI Society, which is
And
extra
they're quite
funny.
good if you listen to it. So they're listening to Gilbert and Sullivan. Josh, do you know Gilbert and Sullivan?
I know them because they've been referenced so many times in popular culture, be it The Simpsons or the video game Mass Effect. Also the Pirates of Penzance, I believe, is one of theirs. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And that's a very consistent play that is done at a high school level or junior
Of
high
course,
level.
I did it. Is how I got into Gilbert and Sullivan. But what's important is that Gilbert and Sullivan were the precursors to these writers.
Yeah.
I think they were writing as early as the 1700s, probably the 1800s. I'd have to look it up. It could have been the 1900s. I don't really know. But it's very much old timey Victorian era sort of writing. The humor is around society, but it is very silly and very much a humorous take in the form of an operetta. So it's like very well written songs, and they're hilarious.
They're funny, fast paced, and they have fun wordplay. One of our other favorite cartoons out there, Animaniacs, they have a parody song where I am the very model of a cartoon individual.
Which this original song is, I am the very model of a modern major general, live information, vegetable, animal, and mineral.
Yeah, and they do a similar thing on Animaniacs where they talk about how he comes from a long line of tunes and whatnot. It's very well done. So I haven't seen any of these Gilbert and Sullivan plays or musicals, but I've seen them referenced so often that I recognize them right away.
Listeners, anybody, if you get the chance, they're so good. They're so hilariously written and clearly an influence to these writers who, as we know, are so good and so hilarious.
Yep.
So
also, I'm surprised that Bob didn't start singing with them because he tied himself to the back of the car.
Well, he's trying to hide, Josh. So they're driving, and he's strapped himself under the car, which was a scene particular to the 91 Cape Fear, where Robert De Niro's basically holding himself. He's so strong. Theme of the film. Under the car.
Robert De Niro's character is not like Arnold buff, but he is ripped and strong. Like he's ready
wiry,
for business.
like he looks kind of like he could fuck you up.
For people who know, like Edward Norton, maybe in Fight Club, type of thing.
100%.
And I love these. I love these bits too, where
so he's under the car,
right,
and they're driving along.
Yep.
And a few things happen. Do you want to?
I would
say
like
what your
to.
favorite
yes,
was?
I would like to. There's two that I like. One is that Homer sips coffee, goes, "Ooh, too hot," and instead of putting it like back to cool down, he just tosses it out the side, and we hear.
And
Bob
I like how
scream.
it's carried right under to Bob.
Right under, Bob screams. And then we get like, "Who wants to drive through the cactus patch?" And Bart and Lisa are like, "Me." And then Bob goes,
like, "No."
And then Homer goes, 2 out of 3. Here we go.
Clueless. Bob like clearly answers like, "No."
Yeah,
and then nobody notices.
Homer, like the entire family is clueless. Like, did they think Maggie all of a sudden just started sounding like Kelsey Grammer?
That's probable. So, but he drives through that field of cactuses.
Yeah.
And it is not good. It looks horrifically painful. And you hear Bob just yelping. So we get to Terror Lake and the new house, and they do the new Simpsons, who are now the Thompsons. And it does like an opening gag with fish piling on them on the couch, So
I have a Snerts confession.
What's that?
I got so confused by this when I first saw this episode as a kid, because it comes back from commercial break and it does that beat, which you don't necessarily get when you watch it on DVD with no commercials. So it was very confusing. I was like, wait, is the show starting over again? What the hell is this? And I didn't click in my young, dumb child brain that this was a parody of themselves. And so that was one of those things that it took me a couple watches when I was younger to be like, okay, oh, it's a
Oh,
joke.
I get it
Oh,
now.
I get it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But like when you come back, like maybe you just grabbed a snack or you snuck a popsicle because it's hot in the summer. And I'm not saying that because I'm sweating my ass off now. I'm not saying that whatsoever.
You look
But
great.
so like you come back from like the commercial break and like I was just very,
The
very confused. Yeah, I was like,
Thompsons.
what is this
Yeah.
show? What happened? I'm like yelling at my sisters and like, who changed the channel?
Well, so the Thompsons live on Terror Lake, and they live in a houseboat. Another reference to
Yeah.
both movies, Cape Fear.
Yes.
And but they've arrived in the car. They stop the car, and everybody's excited about a houseboat. Woo! And Bob unstraps himself from beneath the car, and he looks terrible. He has been just absolutely beaten to a pulp.
Yeah.
And now we get one of a very divisive moment in all of Simpson history. So he rolls out, and he's just been brutalized. And the first steps he takes is on a rake, and it hits him.
Yep.
And then every step he turns the next place and he steps, and there's just rakes everywhere. And he just
Dozens of
does
rakes
it.
on the floor.
And it's one of these jokes that we're going to play it here, but that, you do it and it's funny, and then you do it more and it's not really funny anymore. Like you beat a dead horse, but then you keep doing it and it becomes funny again.
Which is this is the example I use to explain that type of humor. Because it does happen over and over again in various shows and whatnot, where like something kind of just drags on until it becomes funny again. And that's kind of like a weird psychological thing with us humans. Like, you think once something is not funny anymore, it's done. And I there is something too about this burned, bruised, and stabbed man, coming out of it. And sometimes when he hits the rake, you see like a little ball of cactus come flying out of his hair, which is a great visual gag.
I've said it before, Josh. Pain is funny, and they do it so well. Slapstick humor.
Yeah,
it is hard to do slapstick humor. Three Stooges. All of those great comics. I'm forgetting some of my references, but they do it so well in this.
Yes.
But so
we have here. We got an origin story too, because this is when we meet the new nemesis of Bob, the rake.
Well, right.
And this is something that comes back into
because this is another one they bring back in later episodes a lot.
Correct. And do you remember why they said on the DVD commentary that they had this bit go as long as they did?
Well, let's play it, and then let's finish it with that. Then that's way short. So in the show, it goes way, way longer.
There's two things. One, they extended that clip because they were so short on time. So they just fill it in with the rakes.
So it was not a long enough episode.
Correct. So they added the Itchy and Scratchy cartoon and they padded the rake joke. So originally it was only going to be a couple times and that was it. And then two,
and these were still short.
When Kelsey watched this episode, after it was fully produced right on the air, he goes like, I only recorded one. So all they did was loop the
again and again. It's exactly the same every time.
So this is definitely one of the most famous bits out there for The Simpsons.
So Matt Groening said in this that it was not his choice, and that's
correct.
The artist's way of saying like I would not have done it. I wouldn't have found it funny.
I also like how they
mentioned
I also like how they mentioned in the commentary that like various people come up to Al Jean all the time, and he's like, "This is the funniest thing I ever seen," and I was really high.
Yeah, exactly. When he says, "I loved it," but maybe it's because I was high.
Yeah. Fun times.
So that's the rakes, and I cannot wait until we hear that again because that's such a great callback. So they've established themselves at Terror Lake, and they're in their houseboat, and we have a great interaction where Marge is like, "We left it all behind, How can you just make a clean break with your life?" And Homer's like, "Relax, Marge. I tied up all the loose ends before we left." And they cut back to Springfield, and Grandpa's at the house knocking on the door, and he's like, "Hello? You have my pills.
I also love how he says like, "It's cold and there's wolves after me."
You get the wolves, which is I
Yeah.
like they do the.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was and that was another joke that they said, like the grandpa thing was very silly, and I was like, I
Yes.
thought it might be too silly, but they brought back in remind me of the showrunner before
Al
that was
Jean?
no the Simon.
Oh, Sam Simon.
Sam Simon came back in to help with this. They were talking about,
Yeah.
and 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 he put that back in there where Matt was like, I had some question marks about that. But this again is one of the great episodes. So, so then we get to downtown Terror Lake, and Bart's walking down the sidewalk, and a car pulls up next to him, and Sideshow Bob goes, "Hello, Bart," and Bart's like, "Ah!" And he looks over, and there's just an old lady sitting there in the car. And then Bob's like, "No, down here," and he's strapped into the car again now. Like this is his main mode of transportation, you know.
Yep. Just finds himself some car and gets on the bottom of it. And I also love his line too. He's like, "Surely there's no danger or trouble of me laying out in the street."
He's like laying in like a model pose in the middle of the street, like all comfortable.
"Draw me like your other girls, Jack," or whatever.
Exactly what he looks like, and he's like, "Oh, this is perfectly normal. What could happen?" And then we get a damn, like
it's a parade that celebrates
through
the crossing of the Alps by Hannibal with the elephants. And so they have a parade, so Bob is getting hilariously crushed. It's very reminiscent of
like the marching band first and then the elephants come.
Yep.
And it's violent.
It's very violent, and it's very much like Wile E. Coyote, where where Bart is the roadrunner and Bob is the coyote, and he's constantly getting in over his skis and getting hurt while trying to murder this boy. And I do find it funny that they had all these elephants and they used one elephant alone just for the word "the," which is a great visual gag.
Right. The crossing was a very long phrase, so they had dozens of elephants.
Right.
Oh,
and
poor Bob.
I also find it funny that this guy is going through all this trouble. And it turns out his whole master plan is literally to cut the anchor on the boat and stab the kid. Like he could stab him at so many
Bart
different
runs
points.
home.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Mom, Dad, I saw this is another instance of Homer being a dick." And it's like, "I saw Sideshow Bob. And said he's gonna kill me." And Homer's like, "Bart, don't interrupt."
And he's not doing anything.
This is serious. And he's like, "Oh, it's not." Like they're on witness protection, his son's life is, and he's like, he's clueless.
And then we get a couple great visual gags too of Bart sleeping, right? And this was accredited to Conan with the commentary. And I also believe...
So first we just skipped ahead a little bit. So then we go back to the motel, and our Bob is staying at the Bates Motel.
Oh, right. Oh, of course.
And that's where you said, and he's writing a list of his master plan here for Bart, which is to get him on the boat and, murder him. But he has the funny thing where he's like, he's writing it out like poetically. And he's like, surprise the boy in bed and disembowel him. And he's like, no, I don't like using bow there. So gut him. Oh, the mot juste. Mwah. So we then go to the boat, and this is again one of the better scenes on this, and they referenced it on the commentary, as you were saying before.
So they were crediting this kind of jokes to Conan, which makes sense because it's kind of the over the top. And I think we have a couple clips. I think I got the hockey mask one at least for H.
Oh yes. So what's happening is Bart is in bed and he's obviously terrified, and Homer busts through the door with a knife in his hand, a giant butcher knife in his hand. He's like, "Bart, do you want some brownies before bed?" And Bart, who's tense already, is like, "Ah!" Yeah. He's like, "Oh, sorry, boy. What was I thinking?"
Once again, The Simpsons using a butcher knife to cut brownies. I mean, we had this in Trilogy of Air when Marge was using a butcher knife. I don't know why I get hung up on this so much, but I do. I never used a butcher knife to cut brownies.
If it was big enough, you could get it done quicker.
I guess.
Marty, you want some brownie before you go to bed? Come on, let me cut you a brownie while they're still hot.
Dad, I'm kind of edgy right now. I'd appreciate you not coming in my room screaming and brandishing a butcher knife.
Why? Oh, right. The Sideshow Bob thing. Oh, I'm sorry, boy.
Such a dick.
Yep.
Marty, you want to see my new chainsaw and hockey mask? Oh, sorry. What am I thinking?
And it's a beautifully animated shot. So, you know, we get very menacing overtones of the colors and the outlines of the knife or the outlines of the mask and the chain, you know, so fast with the animation, then it goes slow. And so it's this very fun, rapid, beat for beat joke that
Hilarious.
is very fun.
They said something interesting in the commentary, Josh, where they said Conan's ability to act these things out so that they could hear what he was trying to do was one of the reasons he was able to get a lot of things across they might not have been able to.
And I just imagine that lanky Irishman going all ham in the writer's room to prove his point.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, they must have been fun as hell.
Yeah.
So now we're getting towards the end here. Bob has found the boat and he climbs up on the boat. And late in the night, everybody's sleeping. He cuts the moor and the boat starts to drift off. And so he's aboard now. And this, again, is a callback exactly to the movies. Both of them have this scene in it, I believe. But we do get a callback to the rake. The first callback is immediately when he gets on the boat. There's a rake on the boat. He goes, whoosh.
And he just backhands this one out into the water and moves on.
Now he's in control.
I also love too how Bob ties up the entire family besides Bart, including the dog and cat. And then Lisa screams out, "Oh no, Dad's been drugged!" And Marge replies,
"Because he's dead ass asleep right now. He's snoring."
And then Marge replies, "No, he hasn't," in the most angry tone. So this is the second line that I like from Marge in this episode. You know, very short, to the point. It also has the word "no" in it. But she is so upset that Homer is literally sleeping through all of this.
Of course. I mean, of course, like his family is in mortal danger and he's taking a freaking nap. Oh, Homer. We love Homer. So Sideshow Bob has burst into Bart's cabin on the boat and is brandishing a sword at him. Yeah. And Bart jumps out of bed. He runs out the window. And this little gag, I like, just a small little thing where he runs to the front of the boat. He's going to jump in the water and try and swim away. But there's like alligators snapping.
Yep.
And so then he's like runs to the other side of the boat and he's going to jump in, but there's like electric eels, like zzz. So he's like, so then he runs back to the other side of the boat. And he's going to jump in the water and the alligators are there. And he goes, oh yeah. So he's trapped and Bart is bearing down on him on the front of the ship. And he goes, well, Bart, any last requests before I kill you? And then, so Bart now is going to try and talk his way out of it.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, there is one, but nah. He's playing Bob like a fiddle. And Bob was like, no, go on, please. And he goes, you have such a beautiful voice. And Bob goes, guilty as charged. And Bart goes, anyway, I just love that little acting moment from what he asks is that Bob sing the entire score of the MMS Pinafore, which is one of the great Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, very well known up there with Pirates of the Penzance. And he goes, very well, Bart, I shall send you to heaven before I send you to hell.
And this was another situation where they kept packing in more to try to fill in the episode so it can make the runtime.
They talk about how ridiculous it gets,
and
like
how they're worried
Matt
if
originally
it was
too
like
ridiculous.
He's like, Matt originally was kind of poo-pooing it because it's like, where does he get the play? What do you call those? The form, right?
The
playbook. that you would
Yeah.
get if you went and saw a play. All of a sudden, there's like
Oh, the
costumes.
playbill. I thought you were meaning like the play itself. Yeah, it's
No. They
called
had like a
playbill.
playbill, and it
Yeah.
shows like Bob on the cover of it, which is
Yeah.
hilarious. And then they
Yeah.
have like
There's a
scenes
lot
where
of
like
production value going on too. There's
right.
costumes.
Yeah, and by the end of it, there's like a flag that comes down for the British flag, right? He's in a full like admiral outfit.
Somebody hands him
With flower.
flowers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just kind of
Bart
wild.
joins in at one point,
Yeah. So it's a very fun montage, and of course, Kelsey Grammer just sings his guts out, so to speak.
I mean, it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite. One of the reasons I love this episode, and it's one of my favorites, is we get Kelsey Grammer is an amazing stage actor. He's been in many musicals on stage. He has a beautiful voice, and he's singing one of the great operettas of all time, and very familiar songs. Like he's dressing up as the women in the show too. He's got like a mop on his head.
Yeah, no, it's a fun bit.
I'm cold buttercup dew.
So they
Bart
go 15 miles into Springfield, and eventually the boat goes ashore.
And so Bart has successfully tricked him into giving up that time. They get back to Springfield, and the boat runs ashore, and the cops are there with their guns cocked.
In
and
bathrobes.
He's been foiled.
In bathrobes.
In bathrobes.
And then Wiggum says something. It's like, it's a good thing you crashed here next to this brothel.
Exactly.
So the guys are out on a night at the town at the local brothel.
Yep.
And so like that's just kind of dumb luck, which I find hilarious. Like it doesn't make a lick of sense, but I love it. And
I love Bob's exclamation. He goes, "By Lucifer's beard!"
Yeah, and I love that shot of him like screaming to the heavens in the admiral outfit. It's one of those things that I use sometimes as an avatar for an account on various websites.
Oh, very funny. It's a great moment.
We get a good Wiggum line here. I
love this scene.
Yeah.
You want to take it?
Well, so Bart goes, "Take him away, boys," and then Wiggum goes,
"Hey, I'm the chief here. Bake them away, toys."
What did you say, Chief?
Do what the kid said.
So once again, we have Wiggum not being good at his job, and I do love the way I do like the "bake 'em away" toys.
Bake 'em away, toys.
It is one of those things too.
They're like,
where
what?
I was happy that I had the closed captioning on for reviewing this episode, so I could get that line exactly correct. And once again, you picked an episode where the Simpsons just return to their home like nothing happened.
Weird.
And we get Grandpa, who has been feminized with lipstick, long
This
hair,
is another
and
joke
tits.
where they were worried that they were being too silly as they come
Yeah.
back. And Grandpa's like, "I didn't have my pills. Look what happened." And he's grown breasts.
Yes.
He's got long, feminine hair and hips.
Yep.
he looks like a grandma. And I think he's wearing lipstick at the time.
He has lipstick on for some reason.
There's no explanation for that for you pills.
No, not at all. Everything else makes sense except for the lipstick for some reason. I also love too how Marge is like, "Quick, go get his pills," and then Jasper shows up and he's like, "Hold on, I would like to court this little lady."
Not so fast.
Abe playfully says like something along the lines of like, "There's something you should know about me."
It's like a call out to the crying game. Like, there's
Yeah.
something you should know.
Right. And I love how like as soon as like he mentions tickets to some kind of concert, Abe is all on board.
It's like, "I'm all yours." So the concert, he goes, "I got Steve and Edie tickets." So
okay.
They are a famous West Coast act from like the 50s through the early 2000s.
Gotcha.
Steve and Edie, everybody knew who they were. They had a long running show in Vegas.
Okay.
And I had this idea that they had a show an ongoing show at a cool cabaret in Los Angeles, but I tried to find that.
Okay.
I couldn't find it.
Well, did you see the deleted scene though with Jasper and Abe on their date?
I don't think I did.
So
I used
it's
to love
obviously it got
deleted
cut
scenes.
for a good reason, but they show him on a canoe and he's wearing like an old timey like pinstripe with a hat, kind of like he was doing the monorail song.
Yeah.
And Abe is in full Victorian dress with the umbrella.
With the
they're
parasol.
and they're just kind of like singing and canoeing down the river, which is
Ladies a courting.
But much like the deleted scene for the Itchy and Scratchy short, it made sense that this was cut. Like it had nothing to do. It was total non sequitur. There's better ways.
The
I would rather
show
than
is tight.
Right, and I would rather
And
have them do the rake joke another 40 seconds.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know for all of the talk about the uh, how almost discombobulated putting this together was, and
Yeah.
how they were flippant about it because they were leaving and they didn't care.
Right.
It is one of the best episodes because everything they did worked, and they end everything they decided to do, they did, and they went for it. And it was controversial within the writers' room, and because they did, we have this episode. Is they went for it,
I
and
also wonder if this gave them permission to be more silly because it was such a successful episode. You know, because we do talk about it, how things continually to kind of
yeah,
get more just random and wild, and it's more like, does it make you laugh versus like a story beat or something of that nature. They also said that the ending, you know, with the cops and the brothel and everything like that, was written by like Conan and his team for like the newer season. So it is one of those
mm-hmm.
few ones that bridged the gap with writers of the original to the next wave.
He said there was the only one ever.
Oh, really? Is that what they said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, they say that now, and then when you get to season 16, you move on
Right.
to it and you find something
And they
different,
come
right?
back, but never the
Yeah.
whole group. Never the whole group again.
So, what are your final thoughts on Cape Fear?
Well, I think it's an amazing episode. And it is Kelsey Grammer's penultimate episode early on, and he's so fantastic in this. And Homer being a dick the whole time, I think, is hilarious in this. And I just simply love this episode, and it made me laugh every time. It made me laugh going through creating my notes. I was laughing at it.
Nice.
So I very much enjoyed it, and I think that the fact that all of these writers were leaving and all their contracts not being renewed led into this opening up, and that made it more fun. Just a side note to that, I was looking up how much everybody ended up getting paid that did leave, and they're all very, very, very rich. So
yeah, I'm not worried about anybody who's worked on The Simpsons for any given amount of time. Well, my final thoughts, as mentioned at the top, this is probably my favorite Sideshow Bob episode. I didn't see the Cape Fear movie until I was an adult, but the references are spot on. Kelsey Grammer is fantacular playing Bob. The jokes hit after multiple viewings, and the writing, music, and animation all come together perfectly. It's
even grow after more viewings.
It's very, very good. So, well,
awesome.
Great job, Robin. That's two in the bank. So now we
Great
get to move on.
job to you, Josh.
Thank you. But hey, Robin, do you hear that sound?
What's that, Josh?
Well, you know what time it is. It's the
Krusty brand seal of approval.
Yeah. All right. So, what did you give for your score on Krusty Gets Busted?
I'm gonna give Krusty Gets Busted a 3, maybe a 4, 3.5. We'll figure it out. I thought that it's very early. Yes, absolutely. It's like terrible fantasy baseball. I'm
gonna put you down on you sound like a 3.
It's early, and it definitely doesn't have some of the richness of the later episodes. But this episode, Krusty Gets Busted, set up so many things going forward. We've got I Caramba, and we've got a lot of references that come back for years and years. So I'm trying not to give everything. We talked last time, trying not to give everything 4s and 5s. You know, I'm tempted to go 4 on it, but I'll go with 3, and then we'll see. We're early.
I'm also
we're gonna go for the next 20 years. So
I'm also doing a 3 for all the reasons you mentioned. Like it gets brownie points for setting up so much canon and things to be referenced
100%.
later, that I do think it's important that people watch this episode.
100%.
But there are so many better Bob episodes out there. I'm thinking especially like this one, and like the one where his brother from Frasier shows up.
Yes,
is great.
Niles Crane. David Hyde Pierce is his name.
And no surprise with Cape Fear, I'm giving this a 5. How about you?
Yeah, me too. It's one of those that just stuck in there hard. and got into my psyche and remember it so vividly and love it so much. So gotta go with 5.
Nice. Well, that's our rating. Folks at home, do you have your own rating for these episodes? Let us know on the social medias.
DM me.
There you go. And that's a wrap for Sacrilicious with Robin and Snerts. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're feeling generous, then please leave a 5-star review with a few sentences. We are currently on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. I'd like to thank the following people for their inspiration support. We got Ken Bjorn Turner and Matthew Dawson. Together, we recorded an episode of the Delvin Cox Experience, filling in for our friend who's going through some hard times and needed to keep his content going. So if you are on any of your podcast platforms of choice, I recommend signing up for the Delvin Cox Experience and listening to my episode especially. I also want to thank Matt Groening for creating my favorite TV show ever, Futurama!
Oh, wait a minute, damn it, Josh.
Gotcha. It's The Simpsons. I want to shout out Smokin' Joe from the PSVG Discord. He had some props saying that we were killing it on this, so I gave him a shout out because he gave us a shout out. Thank you, Smokin' Joe.
Appreciate it so much.
And of course, Dr. Moxford, the raddest fan of them all.
Doctor! We love the Doctor. Doctor, we've got new Ralph Wiggum quotes that we will bring into future episodes.
We sure did. Do you want to hear more from your old pal Snerts? Then check out the PlayStation Experience on your podcast platform of choice. I can also be found on most of the things at Lord_Snerts. Robin, any outro or plugs?
If you want to experience more content with me, give me a call. What I would like to end with was once again to toast to today's holiday in America, Juneteenth, such an important day. And something that we should celebrate in a glorious way. Cheers. Nice.
Well, our goal is to get the next episode out on Sunday, July 7th. Robin picked The Departed, I should say. And I picked Jaws Wired Shut. So until next time, folks, smell you later, true believers.
I can't believe that replaced goodbye.